Today, we discuss a man who not only went to the lowest depths that he could to sell a fight, not only did he not deserve the title shot, but also he didn't do anything at all for 5 rounds to the champion. And what about Alexandre Pantoja? Did he prove that he's still that dude at 125 pounds? And what about Shavkat Rakhmonov, who went out there and defeated not only Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, but also Tenacious D? All of this and more on today's episode of Matter of Fact MMA. What's up? What's happening? Let's go. What's up, guys? We right back in it. We right back at it. We get ready to go over a couple of things here on this Monday coming out of UFC 296. It went down at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. So let's start with the main event where Leon Rocky Edwards, you're letting him bully your son, goes out there and defeats Kobe Chaos Covington after a 5-round shellacking. Well, there's not a lot to say about this. The only thing, Leon Edwards went out there and did his thing. He firmly and soundly defeated Kobe Covington. You could really only say maybe Kobe won 1 round. I believe that would probably be the 5th round since that was the only round he ever really had any true offense. He tried to turn it up in the 4th round, but it wasn't enough. 5th round came, he was at least able to keep Leon Edwards on the ground for most of that round. So here's the thing. Let's just say the only thing that I would criticize about Leon Edwards' portion of this fight is at the end of the day, after the things that Kobe Covington had said about his father, who passed away a long time ago. He was actually, unfortunately, he was murdered, Leon Edwards' father. And Kobe Covington chose to try to use that to unnerve Leon, to take him out of his zone, to make him emotional, to make him angry. And guess what? It didn't work. Leon was calm, cool, collected, and went out there and dismantled Kobe Covington. And the only thing that I would criticize is I would say, as a Leon Edwards fan, you really wanted to see him stop or finish Kobe Covington. But as I'm watching that fight, I'm thinking, come on, Leon, just put him away. Just, teach him a lesson that he can't go around saying these type of things to promote a fight. Put him away. Teach him a lesson. But in the post-fight speech that Leon Edwards made, there was one key thing I picked up on, and he spoke about basically he couldn't take any chances at all in losing to this guy after he had said what he said about his father. Now, I'm paraphrasing. I don't remember the exact way that he worded it, but he basically alluded to, he wanted a more spectacular fight. He wanted a finish, but he had to basically go out there and get the job done because at the end of the day, it's one thing if you beat the guy and you don't knock him out or you don't stop him, but it's another thing if you go out there and make a mistake because you do get emotional and you're trying to put him away, and then you take a L to Kobe Covington and ruin everybody's life by making this guy the welterweight champion. Because let's just be honest, we all know that if Kobe Covington would have won the welterweight championship, that thing ain't getting defended once every other year, because he's only going to go for the big money fights. He's not going to fight contenders. Everyone, it had already been a rumor, and I believe it's pretty much a fact. If Kobe would have won, he definitely would have called out Conor McGregor and given him a welterweight title shot. So, shout out to Leon Rocky Edwards, who went out there and beat Kobe at every turn. He beat him on the feet. His striking looked sharp. He kept him at bay with a jab. And then when he needed to, he would go to the body. Kobe just wasn't moving the same. He wasn't energetic. He looked slow out there. He's 35 years old, which in welterweight, you starting to get, a little bit long in the tooth, if you know what I'm talking about, when you're 35 at welterweight. Bro, Not only that, Leon beat him in the wrestling. When Kobe wanted to take it to the ground, Leon was cool with that. He would scramble, get right back to his feet. Then he turned around and took Kobe down. You know what I'm talking about? That's Rocky. That's Leon. You're letting him bully your son, Rocky Edwards. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to Rocky. He goes out there. He gets the win. He defends his welterweight championship. And we don't have to worry about Kobe Chaos Covington. Straight up. After that fight, Kobe, in the post-fight press conference, of all people, calls out Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. You can't be any softer, any tissue paper softer than Kobe Covington. Like, literally, you cannot be. Kobe Covington is like a bed made up of pillows with the finest feathers, silks, and fabrics, layered on top with tissue paper, and on top of that, a layer of nice plush foam. You know what I'm saying? And then on top of that, another layer of Jello. And then on top of that, if you can't tell, I'm thinking of everything I can think of that's soft, moist, and squishy. Which, pause, that's how I'm going to describe Kobe Covington. Glad he took the L. Shout out to Leon Rocky Edwards. Let's move on. In the co-main event, we saw my man Alexandre Pantoja go out there and defeat Brandon Raw Dog Royval. Let's get off into it. First of all, your boy has made this point numerous times about these fighters, and you saw it again on Saturday night. Brandon Royval came out there, shout out to him. He comes out to ODB, baby, I like it raw. That was awesome, good to see. But when the lights went down in the arena and everything turned black, and you heard that doom, 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 many men. Your boy Matt's been telling you, if you gonna get into a fist fight with anybody in real life or in the octagon, if they come walking out to many men, if you're in a club and he's looking at you crazy, he might give you a little shove, give you a little elbow in the club, you know what I'm saying, and many men comes over the speaker, pack it up, boys. It's time for you to go home, because you do not want to face anybody, fight anybody at all that's associated with the song Many Men. Because when that goes down, somebody's going to get done dirty. And if you ain't ready, if you ain't the one walking out to Many Men, you might get done dirty. So, shout out to Alexandre Pantoja, who goes out there, gets the job done against Brandon Royval, took him out, took him to the woodshed. It was awesome to see. It was awesome to see Alexandre Pantoja goes out there. I mean, honestly, I would say Brandon Royval probably, I don't think he really won any round, but if you're going to give any round to him, it would have been round 5. Because that was the one that he really went out there, tried to keep it standing, and was putting some real hot sauce, real spice on them shots that he was throwing at Pantoja. Pantoja, in typical Pantoja form, I mean, after the first round, he was looking gassed. He was looking tired. But I really thought about it, and it's like, that's what Pantoja does in every single fight. I don't know how this man continues to go out there and be completely fatigued and tired, but push through for the rest or the remainder of the fight. But nevertheless, shout out to Brandon Royval, at least in that 5th round. You know what I'm saying? He went out there, he tried to win the fight on the feet. He was really throwing a lot of flame, a lot of fire behind those shots. At the end of the day, Pantoja just had a little bit more he was trying to prove. He's always had that dog in him. As I said in my last video, that dog lives with him at his home, with his family. But at the end of the day, it was a great fight. Even though it wasn't super back and forth, it was just good to see Alexandre Pantoja go out there and get the win and continue his reign at 125 pounds. Let's move on. Next, let's get off into Shavkat Rakhmonov goes out there and defeats Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. So, it was an interesting fight. It was sad at the same time. I was watching the MMA Guru stream yesterday, And it was interesting because he definitely said this perfectly about this card. There was a moment where he was talking about, man, this card is kind of making me sad a little bit. Like, it's kind of got me down. That was kind of the vibe overall of this show. Like, the prelims were really action-packed and really good, and it was awesome to see. When you got into the main card, there were a few moments that really just kind of brought you down. So with this fight, you're seeing Stephen Wonderboy coming out there. He's walking out with Jack Black. He's coming out with Tenacious D. That was awesome to see. Of course, they sang his song, Wonderboy. So that was awesome to see them come out there with him. But you also felt kind of sad because you're like, dude, like, man, why they gotta come out and watch Stephen Wonderboy take a L? You know what I'm saying? Why couldn't they come out back in the day, one of his other fights? Why they gotta come out here at the tail end of his career when he's out there facing the trained killer in Shavkat? You know what I'm saying? But that's what it was. Shavkat comes out there extremely calm, extremely stoic as he always is. First and second round, Shavkat really was very strategic. He would hold Wonderboy up against the cage. He was basically almost like he was reining in Wonderboy, like the way of like if you take your dog walking outside and the first time you walk out the door, your dog's all wild and trying to go everywhere, and you got him on that leash, and then you gotta calm him down. You know what I'm saying? You gotta, okay, all right, let's chill and let's go for a walk. That was what he did to Wonderboy. He held the man up against the cage, pressed him up against the cage, kept him controlled. And it was one of those things where I'm not saying it was tiring out Wonderboy, but it could have been, because all you're doing is flexing and struggling to try to get away from the grip of Shavkat. And so that was very interesting to see, very strategic, very smart. I know a lot of people, as that fight was playing out, I was seeing on the internet, or I was seeing online that a lot of people were like, this is a boring fight. Like, what's Shavkat doing? And I'm thinking the entire time, just wait. You know what I'm saying? Just wait, because you're dealing with Shavkat. Look, if you're going to be a Shavkat fan, you got to understand, you got to believe in old Shavkat, because it was only a matter of time. You're talking about a dude that's had like 18 wins, 18 straight wins, and 18 finishes. And I believe that includes Wonderboy. I don't know if Wonderboy was number 18 or number 19, but spoiler alert, he was one of them numbers. And in the third round, Shavkat goes out there and he taps Wonderboy due to rear naked choke. So, that's it, man. That's what it was. Shout out to Shavkat. Shavkat gave his normal stoic, post-fight interview, which is kind of, it's kind of what it's what is going to happen when you're dealing with Shavkat, but he definitely did call for the title shot. So even with as much as I get on this platform and I talk about the fighters that don't talk, that don't say anything, even a guy that doesn't speak English has to use a translator and is stoic and calm and collected as Shavkat. Even he knew when they put a microphone in your face, when Joe Rogan is standing beside you and he's asking who you want next, you throw out a name. And he threw out the champion. He didn't say if it was Leon. He didn't say if it was Kobe. He just said, whoever the champ is, I'm next. Shout out to Shavkat, who gets it. A lot of you other fighters are still out here, I don't care who the UFC puts me in here with. I don't care who I fight next. I'll fight 11 more fights just to get a title shot. Shut up, bro. Shut up, bro. Shavkat goes out there, doesn't even speak English, and still lined y'all up with that call out for the champion. Because the man understands sometimes you gotta give a little help to the UFC so they'll kind of get behind you and make things happen for you. So shout out to Shavkat. He goes out there, he defeats Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Let's move on as I check my Nizzos. Oh, now it's really about to get sad. Okay. So now it's really about to get sad. Tony Ferguson goes out there and he gets defeated by Paddy Pimblett. Here's the thing, man. There's not a lot to say. Tony Ferguson is now on a 7-fight losing streak. And here's the thing, man. Stop with all the David Goggins mess. Stop with all the Tony's ready this time. Tony's different. Tony sharpened his mind. Tony is this. Tony is that. Tony old, okay? Tony took too much damage, okay? Justin Gaethje took Tony's soul. You know what I'm talking about? So it's like, can we stop with this experiment? I was calling for one of my last videos. I was calling for, can we stop with the Anthony Smith experiment? He done. He washed. Okay? I don't care that he beat Ryan Spann. That was due to Ryan Spann having low fight IQ. He done. He washed. Bro, I was a huge Tony Ferguson fan, but guys like Tony Ferguson really test your fandom simply because they fight too long past their prime. Just like we had to go down that road with BJ Penn. Just like we pretty much went down that road with Frankie Edgar. You hate seeing your fighters that you really idolize keep fighting long past their prime. There's a point where it's like, I'm going to do more damage to my legacy of my career by continuing to try to win a fight and go out on a win. At this point, Tony's just got to stop, bro. Because at this point, all they can do is give you some unknown, no-name guy doesn't have a Wikipedia page. You know what I'm saying? For him to fight, for him to try to get a win. And what if he loses to that guy? And like I said on the breakdown of this fight, the preview of this fight, Tony makes too much money off of his contract for the UFC to put him in the octagon with an unknown guy. Because if the unknown guy is actually trash and he beats Tony Ferguson because Tony's old and washed, the UFC can't propel that unknown guy because he's trash. So if they level him up to the next fighter, he's just going to get washed anyway. So it doesn't work. That's why the UFC likes to put guys like Tony who don't want to leave the sport or, they're not ready to retire yet. They like to put them against guys like Paddy Pimblett because at the end of the day, even though Paddy looked a little bit better in this fight, but he's still kind of trash. You know what I'm saying? It still props him up because Paddy's got that name. Paddy's building his brand. So that's kind of what it is. So, Paddy Pimblett goes out there. He defeats Tony Ferguson. Like I said, he looked a little bit better than his previous fights, but he's still kind of trash because his striking just looked horrible. Like he was just leaving himself wide open for counters. It's just that Tony Ferguson's a little bit too late in his career to really react quick enough on those counters. Tony was trying to counter Paddy, and he did catch him a few times, but nothing that really wobbled Paddy. But Tony Ferguson from 2019, 2018, Tony Ferguson, when he didn't have that knee injury, even right after he came back from that knee injury, and he fought Anthony Pettis. You know what I'm saying? Tony Ferguson, back in that time period, Paddy would have been a dead man. You know what I'm saying? The way he was leaving himself open for counters, Tony, I called him Toby. Tony would have countered that man and it would have been a wrap. You know what I'm saying? So, but nevertheless, Paddy Pimblett goes out there. He gets a win over Tony Ferguson. I hope to see Tony just go ahead and hang it up and retire. Another just side note. Did y'all hear the cornering by David Goggins? Which, shout out to David Goggins. At least he did what he could do. I was worried he was going to really be trying to give Tony fight advice, but he just kind of gave him a few yells and was like, let's go out here and show him what we can do. Let's show him who you are. And it's like, okay, David, we all know you're going to jog home from the arena to your house, however many miles that is. We know you don't drive cars. So it's like, okay. But nevertheless, shout out to Paddy Pimblett. He goes out there, he gets the win. Here we go with one of the performances of the night. Josh Emmett goes out there, turns the hands of time backwards, and viciously. When I say viciously, I cannot say viciously any more vicious. He knocked out Bryce Mitchell and just. Is Bryce Mitchell okay? Does anyone know that Dana White said he was all right, but we ain't seen him. And it's like Dana White said he was all right and he passed all of the protocol tests at the hospital. I think Bryce Mitchell might have passed away in the octagon. They might have carted him out, and now Dana White done paid and created a clone to set in his spot. Because, bro, ain't no way. Bryce Mitchell, that knockout that was inflicted upon him by Josh Emmett. I mean, bro, not only did he get flatlined, but DC and Joe Rogan, I thought they clenched their pearls, and I thought they were going to start just break down bawling, crying, as they should, because the man, I mean, he started twitching, his legs started convulsing. I mean, it was a rough knockout. Shout out to Bryce Mitchell. This is no joke. I hope everything's all right with him. I hope, this doesn't sideline or derail his career in any way, or just his quality of life, because that was a vicious knockout. That wasn't just like you got knocked out, you was out for a little while, and then, that they brought you back. That was vicious. I mean, he was like twitching and everything. And then the buffoonish doctors in the octagon, shout out to Joe Rogan for calling this, they're like letting him stand and try to walk around. And he's clearly, like, I know Bryce Mitchell didn't want to sit down, but clearly he needed the stool. And you might have to hold him on the stool because that man was out. You know what I'm saying? So that wasn't cool to see either. So I don't know, bro. That was just all kind of disturbing at the end. Even Dana White, who had no reason to come in the octagon, came into the octagon because obviously he knew how serious this was. And Dana don't want to have somebody die in the middle of his show. So it's like Dana came in there like, hey, is he all right? So, shout out to Josh Emmett. Let's see where they move him. Because obviously, whatever skills he, might slightly be declining from all the damage he's taken over the years and the fact that he's getting a little bit older for the featherweight division. It ain't no secret, dude. That man packs dynamite in his hands. I mean, this man, he packs dynamite like a lunchbox in his fists. So, I mean, he goes out there and he does damage. And when you got power like that, they can put you in the octagon with a lot of people. And you could come out the winner against a lot of people if you land one of those shots. So amazing to see him do that after taking such a horrible L in his last few fights. So shout out to Josh Emmett for getting that big win over Bryce Mitchell. Next, we have Alonzo Menifield goes out there and defeats Dustin Jacoby. Here's the thing, man. Alonzo Menifield packs power. He also, much like Josh Emmett, packs dynamite in his hands. He's got a lunchbox and it ain't no food in it. It ain't nothing but dynamite and C4 inside that lunchbox. You know what I'm saying? And so shout out to him. And he's also he's a pretty good counter striker, counter puncher. To deliver those powerful shots. But man, at the end of the day, Dustin Jacoby lost this fight. Because, again, I've said this in one of my previous videos from one of his other fights. It's like, bro, he just doesn't have the best fight IQ once he gets hurt. And I know he's hurt, so his mind is probably cloudy. He's groggy. He's trying to hang in there. But this is like his second or third fight that he's gotten hurt. And he's gotten control of the fight again. And his opponent is tired, completely gassed out, and he chooses to hold his opponent up against the cage and try to grapple. And it's like, dude, I know you don't want to run the risk of getting caught by one of those anvil-like fists that, Alonzo Menifield is throwing. But at the same time, dude, he's completely gassed. Man, you got to back up off of him, back up off the cage, and continue to pick him apart if you can. Like, if you're going to back off the cage and you're literally going to collapse, okay, I get it. But man, it was just low fight IQ cost him this fight because he could have won it. He got laid out in the third round, Dustin being he, and but he still scrambled. Eventually, he got back up to his feet. He got Alonzo Menifield up against the side of the cage, and Alonzo was completely gassed. And if he would have just, I believe, in my opinion, I don't know, I'm not a professional fighter. I believe that if he would have backed up and just what he could throw at Menifield and be ready for the counter, I think he could have easily won by the scorecards, possibly got him out of there because Alonzo was done so. Shout out to Alonzo Menifield. He goes out there and gets the win. And I mean, he definitely did all the damage. He landed the more powerful shots. But Dustin Jacoby, I believe, would have won on the scorecards had he not chose to start grappling with Alonzo when Alonzo was gassed and had just laid him out, which obviously lets you know he's going to win this fight due to damage. So, you know, and like I said, Dustin Jacoby has done this other times in other fights. So, I don't know, man. It's something he's got to address. But again, shout out to him. I get it. If he was so rocked from that shot, which he could have been because he got laid out. If he was so rocked from that shot that he wasn't able to inflict anything but hold him up against the cage, and I get it. But Alonzo Menifield goes out there. He gets the win there. Let's move on. Fight of the night. We had fight of the night. Irene Aldana goes in there against Carol Rosa and does her thing. You know what I'm saying? Round one, Carol goes out there and just made mincemeat of Aldana's leg. I mean, it was like she just kept hitting her with these devastating leg kicks over and over again. It was like she had a baseball bat at cack, 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 just over and over again in Aldana's leg, bro. But Aldana stayed strong. She had that Mexican fighting spirit. She was with it. And she goes out there after losing the first round and starts taking it to Rosa in the second round. And she's really goes in there, bites down her mouthpiece and is giving it to her on the feet. Just throwing those hands because Aldana has some of the best boxing in that division. You know what I'm saying? And she went out there and literally gave her those hands over and over again. Third round, Rosa came out there at the beginning of the round and looked like she was going to put that pace right back on Aldana. You know, I mean, she was really putting it to Aldana. And then Aldana bit down that mouthpiece again. And they waged war in the octagon. I'm talking about these two women was throwing hands. You know what I'm saying? This was a scrap. This was a street corner scrap that went on in the octagon in the T-Mobile Arena. Nevertheless, Irene Aldana goes out there. She gets the win. She actually said after the fight that she was dealing with some sort of a leg injury or knee injury prior to Rosa delivering those baseball bat shots to her leg. So, you know, I can't wait to see her back in the octagon. I don't know if she's going to have to take a little time off to address whatever her leg or knee injury is. But shout out to her for going out there and getting the win. And that fight was also fight of the night. So that was awesome to see both of those women get a little bonus in their paycheck, you know what I'm talking about, in their purse, in their pocketbook. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to them. Great fight. Cody Garbrandt next. He's up next. He goes out there, delivers a devastating knockout to Brian Kelleher. Sent Brian Kelleher face first into the octagon. He fell through the mat, down through the floor, and in the basement of the T-Mobile Arena. Cody Garbrandt went out there, did his thing against him. Cody still looks a little slow compared to how he looked years ago. You know, I definitely wouldn't say he's returned back to his championship form, but I'm just happy to see the dude going out there and getting wins because we all know he is the captain and the president of the Chinny Chin Chin committee. So it was good to see him go out there and get a big win against Brian Kelleher. Up next, we have Ariane Lipski goes out there and gets a performance of the night win against King Casey O'Neill. This is where when I was trying to make my pick for this fight, this is what I was worried about. And this is what I spoke about. Oh, it was one thing when Casey O'Neill lost her last fight, you know what I'm saying? But it was kind of like, okay, maybe she came back too soon. She said she might have come back too soon. She was still dealing with that, trying to rehabilitate that knee injury that she had. But I was kind of thinking, I don't know. There was something about that fight where I kind of thought, you might not have what you had before you got that knee injury. When we saw this fight, I'm a firm believer of that. And like I said, Ariane Lipski has been going out there and doing her thing in her last few fights. As from what I understand, I believe she might have changed up her camp that she trains with outside of her husband, who also assists in training her. But I don't know if they changed gyms or what they did. But shout out to her, because she has definitely been looking a lot more solid in the octagon her last few fights. She's on a little win streak. She goes out there and she gets King Casey O'Neill out of there. So I'm gonna be interested to see where they put her next. And Casey's going to have to address some things. I don't know what needs to be changed. I don't know what's different. I don't know if that knee injury that she sustained might kind of mess her up as far as going forward in her career, but she's got to figure out something. So shout out to Ariane Lipski, goes out there and gets the win. Next, we have Tygir Ulanbekov goes out there with Cody Durden and puts him away. This was an interesting fight. This was my fault on the pick, because I wanted to roll with an underdog pick, and I've liked the previous fights that Cody Durden has been winning, but I just didn't know that Ulanbekov was gonna. I didn't know that he had heat like that. Like, I knew he was a really good fighter, but I also felt like Durden was good enough in scrambles that he might be able to catch him with something, some sort of a choke or something along those lines. But nah, it wasn't happening. And I also didn't know that he was, he had that type of size for the weight class. So he's definitely someone to watch. He's definitely a prospect in the division. So that was my fault. Shout out to Ulanbekov. He goes out there and gets the win over Cody Durden. So that was a great fight. Next up, we got Andre Fili goes out there and beats Lucas Almeida. Look, man, Andre Fili's that dude, man. And shout out to him, what he was saying in his post-fight speech, and they kind of talked about on the broadcast. The man's dog just passed away days before he traveled to Las Vegas for the fight. That had to do a number on him. Also, he was talking about he had just buried a close friend of his, maybe within a month or two prior to this fight. So, man, shout out to Andre Fili. He goes out there. He gets the job done. He's back in the winning column. He's back on track. So it's going to be interesting to see where they try to put him. He's always been a fighter. I've always felt he's super talented. I've always enjoyed his fights, so shout out to him. Shout out to the Bay Area. It's going to be good to see where the UFC pushes him next. So shout out to Andre Fili for getting that win. And then finally, the first fight of the night, we have Martin Buday goes out there against Shamil Gaziev. Man, what you want, man? Shout out to Shamil Gaziev. He goes out there. He gets the win. He does his thing. He was throwing heat against Martin. Throwing bangers, straight shots, right down the pipe, just bang, bang, bang. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to him, man. His stand-up looked crisp. He's definitely going to be a heavyweight to watch. I feel like he might fatigue early in fights, so if he can get his endurance, his stamina under control, he's definitely going to be a problem at heavyweight. So shout out to him, man. But that's it. That's the end of the card. It was a good card, but like I said, the prelims were outstanding. The main card had a few sad moments, but it was good to see Pantoja go out there and get a win, defending his championship. And it's always good to see Leon Rocky Edwards, and it's always good to see Kobe Covington take a loss. So shout out to both of the champs retaining their title. Nevertheless, I appreciate you guys for joining me for this breakdown of UFC 296. I appreciate you guys for joining me for another episode of Matter of Fact MMA. And I'll check you next time. Peace.